Hi, my name's Tom. I want to talk a little bit today about time. Time's something I've been thinking a lot about the last few weeks and months as we've gone into this weird isolation experience, anxiety and separation that we've all been experiencing. And I've been experiencing time in really different ways. Sometimes it telescopes out, seemingly never ending. Sometimes it hurtles by. You kind of can't even get hold of it. Trying to be a parent and homeschool and run a business and do all of these things that so many of us are trying to do all at the same time. It feels like our relationship with when we are is really oscillating all over the place. So the theme of these talks I was asked to talk about is creativity broadly. And I was reminded of an artist. I often go back to the art world when looking for inspiration or ideas. I was reminded of an artist that I really admire that I'd like to introduce you to in case you haven't heard of him. His name is Dershing Shea, and he's a Taiwanese-American performance artist. And he created this body of work in the early 80s called The Five Performances. And each one was a year-long performance where essentially the artist's life became the expression of the performance. And these performances were monumental and startling and unsettling and thought-provoking, and I think maybe contain some small insights for our current experience. And I'll tell you why. So the first one, he built a cell inside his studio in which he committed to isolating himself for a calendar year, with no outside stimulus, no radio, no TV, no magazines, no books, basically nothing. He had one friend bring him food and drink and take away his refuse, and that was it for a year. Some guests were allowed every 3 weeks for a brief viewing of the performance. When you think about that in today's age, or any age really for that matter, but for today's age, to be totally devoid of any sort of emotional connection, any kind of creative stimulus, any sort of input. And for me, my experience of creativity is the combination of and recombination of so many different inputs, all the books I've read, all the experiences you've had in your life mashed together outputs creative experience for me personally. And to have an artist place himself in that experience of complete isolation and total lack of any kind of stimuli is kind of a mind blower. And the thing that is really, I find, powerful and uplifting and surprising and enlightening is that the artist himself said after the experience, when asked to sort of reflect on what happened, he was very pragmatic in that he said he was just passing time. And for him, the experience of life is the passing of time. But he said every hour was different. And that to me is, when I'm thinking about this isolation experience and how time is really changing and there's lots of alienation and fear and anxiety, this idea that you can be devoid of anything and still find sort of hope and variety and creativity in a void is for me a very positive feeling. It's very expressive of the human condition. And it kind of got me thinking about time. So more of his works, his following works, the next one he did, he punched a time card every hour on the hour for a calendar year, which again is really hard to conceive of and appreciate what that must do to you and what that experience must be like, and how you can build a completely different relationship with time around something like that. Following that kind of very isolated experience, he then roped himself to another artist for a calendar year, and they agreed not to touch. After that, he spent a year outdoors. He didn't set foot indoors once for an entire calendar year, apart from when he was arrested for vagrancy and had to appear in court. So this artist really did these incredible durational sort of feats of experience and willpower and examinations of the human condition and how it relates to our experience of time. And it really got me thinking about time and digging into what time is and what time means and how we experience it. And I realized we don't really know. Aristotle called time the most unknown of the unknown things in an amazing foreshadowing of Mr. Rumsfeld. And the more I've dug into time and what we know about time and how we relate to time, the more I think he was right. And, there's lots of different ways we try to kind of control time and try to bend time to our needs, like a really extreme example. Joseph Stalin in 1929 tried to shift the whole Soviet Russia onto a 7-day week and put everybody on rotas. So there was no fixed weekend anymore. The whole thing being, it was a bit of a Judeo-Christian thing to have a Sunday off, and he wanted to sort of stamp that out with a more revolutionary ideal. And eventually that had to be canned because people wanted to spend time together with their family. They wanted a human and emotional connection, and that won out over Stalin's desire for kind of hegemony. We also try to make our understanding of time incredibly precise. We use science to give ourselves a really clear sense of what time is. We keep building atomic clocks that get more and more precise by vibrating atoms. And the current most accurate atomic clock won't lose a second in 1 billion years. So we have this fantastic precision over time, which maybe has something to do with our innate desire to really understand and control time, when maybe actually we can't so well. And maybe that's a bit unsettling, which sort of takes me back to Dershing Shay's work. And maybe there's something so unsettling about what he does, and something so persuasive and compelling. The reason why it stayed with me for so long is because he takes this quantity, this sort of ineffable essence, which is time, that we all feel and experience, but maybe don't understand and can't completely control, and engages with it in a completely different way, in a way that feels so alien, and a way that right now, today, when we're all experiencing this isolation, this forced privation, this separation, somehow seems kind of instructive, and I think a bit hopeful. I always go back to his summary of the experience of these sort of privationary experiences. That was a lot of experiences. And he said, every hour is different. And that for me is a really, really hopeful and positive and uplifting thought. And it springs from a place of what I call an experience creativity, because it represents the human experience being greater than, an experience of isolation, an experience of privation. So, yeah, there's, I guess, some unstructured, slightly rambling thoughts roughly around the topic of creativity, and something I've been thinking about a lot, this idea of time. So I hope it was interesting. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching, and please, please, please go and make a donation to the Samaritans. That's what this is all for, and I think there should be a link below or above, no, probably below. Please just give whatever you can. It's for an incredible cause. Okay, thanks.